Troy Weaver, you sly mother. What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, February 28th, 2023. I am your host, Sean Murphy, and we got to talk about that game last night because despite the fact that the Detroit Pistons fell short in their climb back in the game against the Charlotte Hornets, in a game that featured a lot of the Detroit Pistons out of the lineup due to injury. Now, one could be a skeptic or a cynic and say that the Pistons were purposely sitting players out last night in order for their pursuit of the number one overall pick and the best odds in the lottery. And a loss against the Hornets last night all but sealed the Pistons getting the third best lottery odds, seeing that the Hornets now have 5 more wins than Detroit. That now puts them on a 5-game winning streak, and their season is going to fall apart now that LaMelo Ball has a fracture in his ankles, probably out for the rest of the season. But no matter how hard they fall, they would have to do a lot of falling to get into a worse spot than where the Pistons are. And so the reality is the Pistons are probably going to end up with that top 3 lottery odds in this draft, meaning that they will have far less of a chance falling out of the top 5. That is exactly what you want going into this draft. But not only that, there were some really intriguing things that happened on the court. Marvin Bagley got his second straight double-double, his second straight 20-point, 10-plus rebound game, which, by the way, according to Pistons PR, he is the second reserve in Pistons history to do that in back-to-back games. And the fact that he's doing this when coming back from injury is particularly impressive. Yes, he's got quite the runway because, Ivy was out, because Cade was out, but at the same time, you can't help but be impressed with with what this guy's been doing. It's funny, when we talked about him in the pod, he was having a little bit more of a quiet night in that first half, but it was really that second half where he came alive and did some different things. And then even more impressive and even more so caught me off guard, James Wiseman, in his 4th game as a Detroit Piston, put up his first 20-point double-double as well. And he did it all throughout the court. I mean, for the most part, it was an attack in the interior. It was an attack with his offensive rebounding. It was his screen and roll game. It was his ability to dunk and be in transition. By the way, the guy runs like a freaking gazelle in the open court. Seeing him, you see the flashes of why Troy Weaver was so tantalized with getting James Wiseman on this roster. You see why the Golden State Warriors were so reluctant to let him go, and you see why they were excited to draft him at number 2 overall. I mean, the talent jumps off the freaking screen. And then he was able to hit a 3-point shot as well. There's times on the defensive end where he looks really solid, times where he looks a little lost. Overall, James Wiseman through 4 games has far exceeded expectations that I had personally. But in addition, I think what anyone expected of him in his first few games. Now, listen, we have no idea what James Wiseman's overall career trajectory is going to be. We have no idea what Marvin Bagley's overall career trajectory is going to be. But these guys combined for 43 points last night. You're telling me that Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman were both able to thrive alongside each other? The guy that, we're talking about, you do the Spider-Man point meme when originally we traded for James Wiseman. I think I called it Marvin Bagley 2 Electric Boogaloo. But the fact that this guy is getting more and more comfortable by each game, you could tell even by his body language on the bench. Like, this is a guy that is just thriving in this new situation and this new chance. But also, this is just so important in a highlighting case of the importance of fit when we talk about the NBA draft. Because all the time, whenever a player's a bust, we go, oh yeah, that guy's a loser. That guy's a bust. He was nowhere near what he should have been. And we always blame the players. But the reality of it is, when a player's a bust in the NBA, there are a lot of extenuating circumstances. First of all, one of the most important things for a player to thrive in the NBA is that they have to be a good fit. They have to be a seamless fit in the organization. And James Wiseman was being asked to play championship level basketball after missing almost 2 years of basketball due to injuries. After missing almost 2 years due to COVID. And it's just not humanly possible to expect. He comes out, he makes mistakes. He's a young center who needs to learn how to play in the NBA. And so the Warriors don't play him. And so the Warriors move on and need to get someone that can actually play because they're trying to win a championship. They realized quickly on that you can't both develop young players and also go win a championship. It's this great ideal thought to have, but at the same time, when you're talking about practicality, you need experience. You need veterans. You need guys who have been there, guys who can take bumps, guys who know what these situations are like because they've been there before. And James Wiseman's just not that guy. But you put him next to a ton of young players who are learning how to play the game themselves, a ton of young, hungry guys who are just going in and getting better each and every day, a situation where their currently number one focus is player development, is giving guys opportunities and chances, and he has a runway to go out and potentially start the rest of this season. I'm excited to see what that does for James Wiseman, because we've seen just in 4 games that he's already getting better and better each and every night. He's already showing flashes of why he was a number 2 overall pick. And quite frankly, he's showing why this guy could actually be a pretty valuable piece going forward. I mean, he's a hardworking kid. The organization seems to love him already. He seems to already be having good relationships with the players as well. But the ultimate thing, the guy has some sauce to his game. I mean, if he can continue to shoot efficiently as well and continue to stretch his jump shot in the mid-range and beyond the three-point line as well, James Wiseman can most definitely have a spot in this rotation even next year when we're trying to actually win some games and player development isn't the primary focus. And so with that, the number one thing is you never want to write a story too early. You never want to write off a story too early. And with that, we're not going to overreact and say James Wiseman's, this awesome player. But what we can say is if you let guys breathe, give it a chance, open up your mind and actually let something play out, certain things can happen. And so with that, I'm really curious to see what James Wiseman can look like alongside Jalen Duren. I think that's going to be something that's going to be really telling about James Wiseman's stay in Detroit and how long that's going to be. I'm really curious to see if we're going to be able to see James Wiseman with Cade Cunningham. And I think this is like a good thing because it's almost an insurance of if the Pistons don't end up getting a Victor Wembanyama type player, this massive, like rim protecting, big, you still have this extremely athletic young prospect that you can work with and you can give some time and some room to breathe. And so I'm also really excited for what the thought of a James Wiseman summer in the Detroit system can be like too. Having a plan and being alongside the player development staff and having an actual roadmap of what they want to do and how they want to grow his game, where they want to experiment, but also the idea of him being alongside a lot of the young guys in the gym this summer as well. Because if the Pistons do what they did last summer, which, all inclinations are Cade's going to probably want to get in the gym this summer, and he goes out and he's a part of that and he works hard this summer, I have a feeling that James Wiseman, in a couple years, we can be looking at a pretty damn good NBA player. At the end of the day, it's just important to show like chances mean something. Opportunities mean something. Fit means something. Culture means something. And you can even have the best team in the world. You can go to the best team in the world, the best organization in the world, and it can still not work out because it's just not a great fit. So with that, what are your thoughts on what James Wiseman's done so far? Are you curious to see what he can do alongside Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham? Do you think James Wiseman potentially could have a long-term fit in Detroit going forward? Also, what have you thought of Marvin Bagley of late, man? We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but seriously, dude, I've just been so impressed with what Marvin Bagley's been doing, the amount of energy he's brought ever since he's come back. One thing's for sure, man. He does not look like he's out of shape. He does not look like he's missed much time at all. And so, even though people are going to be not as keen to tune in these final 20-some games because of the fact that the Pistons are going to be focusing way more on player development, to me, that makes these games more exciting. That makes these games more intriguing because we get to see these guys get opportunities and do things that they wouldn't normally get the opportunity to do on this level. And so with that, we're going to be talking all about it and breaking down each and every game. We're going to be covering it and as deep as we possibly can. Tomorrow on the pod, we actually have Jack Kelly from Detroit Bad Boys joining us on the podcast to talk all things about it. So be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that mother notification bell so you're not missing any content here on the channel. But with that, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.